All right, as Kelly said, my name is Chris Robinson of Robinson Nursery, and I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you for tuning in. Process improvement is something that I'm passionate about, and you will have no doubt I'm a production guy because I have crammed a lot of information into this short presentation. So hold on, stay with me, and I will do my best to answer as many questions as possible at the end. Today we will be covering what is lean. We will cover the 7 wastes we all face in our businesses. We will discuss value added versus non-value added, and we will work to give you a better understanding of some of lean's primary principles, including Kaizen, process mapping, 5S, and one-piece flow. Before we dive in, a little background. Robinson Nursery was started by Rick and Roxanne Robinson in 1984 in the Willamette Valley of Oregon. We specialize in shade and ornamental trees, grown bare root and in air root pruned containers. My brother Josh and I began purchasing the nursery from our parents several years ago. We take great pride in our products and our teams. We love what we do, and we are grateful to work in an industry that beautifies the world through great products and truly great people. As Kelly said, we've been deploying lean in our organization for about 6 or 7 years. I hope this presentation provides you with a better understanding of lean and how you can apply it to your business. Lean is a systematic approach to eliminate waste and add real value to your product, value that can be easily recognized through your customer's eyes. Lean comes from the Toyota production system, but has been expanded on by many companies. Lean is one of the most powerful ways for each of your team members to feel empowered and fulfilled in the workplace. Lean applies to more than just manufacturing. It can be applied to any aspect of your life or business. Lean clearly outlines 7 wastes. We use an acronym to remember these wastes. Throughout the next several slides, I will cover each of these in more detail. The acronym we use to remember the 7 wastes is TIM Wood. T, transportation. I, inventory. M, motion. W, waiting. O, overproduction. O, overprocessing. And D, defects. The goal is to eliminate or reduce each of these wastes whenever possible. Transportation is the movement of products or information. At Robinson Nursery, we strive to minimize the need for transportation wherever possible by consolidating materials and personnel to the point of use. Transportation can be a necessity, but remember, the goal is to eliminate or reduce whenever possible. Inventory is defined as everything from equipment to tags to finished plant products. It is exactly what you think of when you hear the word inventory. But in lean, there is more to it than that. Inventory also includes all work in process and product buildup between processes. The key here is when you decrease your inventory, you will increase your cash flow. Motion is the movement of a person within a process. We are referring to human movement, walking, bending, stooping, etc. Much like transportation, we minimize the need for motion by consolidating materials to the point of use. Waiting is not always as easily identified as one might think. There are obvious wait times, such as when a machine breaks down. Waiting can be disguised as a necessity, such as waiting for approval. Waiting can destroy productivity and extend lead times beyond reasonable terms. Waiting needs to be identified and eliminated. Due to our faulty crystal balls, overproduction is typically a nursery's largest waste. Overproduction is any time you produce too much of an item, whether it is growing more than is needed, which leads to stock buildup, or producing an item before you actually need it. Overprocessing throws away money. If a bundle of trees only needs 5 ties, don't put 10. Without standard work, it becomes easy to put more into a process than is necessary. Defects are often a culmination of the other 6 wastes. Defects can include omissions, incorrect labeling, insufficient quality, timing or execution, and finally, incorrect product. Defects are not only the cost of the product, it is also the rework, possible crediting, and reacquiring the resources necessary to complete it. To become an expert in process improvement, you need to become an expert at identifying these 7 wastes. You can never fully eradicate waste from your business, but over time, with dedication, you will reduce the waste and it will cost you less than it does now. We are now well versed in the 7 wastes. We know what to avoid, reduce, and eliminate. But what are we striving to build? We're trying to build a process that is full of value. In order to do that, everything that is involved in our process, where we do it, how we do it, from the tasks of a team member to equipment used, needs to be value added. Let's discuss the lean definitions of value added and non-value added. What is value? Bottom line, value is in the eye of the consumer. It's not always about what the producer believes to be valuable. In lean, there are 3 criteria that need to be met simultaneously in order to be certain that you are adding value for the customer. The process must be done right the first time. Your product or service needs to be transformed. And lastly, the customer must be willing to pay for it. Non-value added is any part of the process that does not add value to the customer. In order to identify a non-value step in the process, start asking yourself, does it meet the 3 criteria of value added to the customer? This can be a very controversial debate amongst team members because we all value our own contributions. We, however, are strictly looking at the lean definition of value and non-value. If it is not being done right the first time, if what you're doing is not transforming the product or service, or if your customer is not willing to pay for what you are doing, you are looking at a step that does not add value. Start eliminating the unnecessary non-value added activities first. When all you have left are non-value added actions that are completely necessary, do your best to streamline these steps by looking at the 7 wastes and attacking them. Remember the acronym TIM would. Okay, now that we have covered different areas where you might find waste in your processes, and we have looked closely at what really adds or detracts from the value of your efforts, you may or may not have a few ideas about areas where you want to jump in and start to improve. That is great. Here is how you begin. Kaizen is a Japanese business philosophy of continuous improvement that is roughly translated to good change. Kaizen events require all stakeholders in a process to set aside their daily tasks and focus solely on using their knowledge of a process, combined with lean principles to bring forth good change. The objective of a Kaizen is to, in a short period of time, formulate specific goals to improve an area of the business and lay the foundation for a culture of continuous improvement. Kaizens typically last about a week. At Robinson Nursery, we try to have one Kaizen event about every 3 months or so. We do these in-house as part of a lean consortium and with a consulting group. It is important to keep the momentum achieved within the events going when day-to-day activities are resumed. Keeping visual reminders in locations that are easily visible helps to maintain the awareness. If you want to maintain continuous improvement, you must first establish continuous involvement. We will discuss this further when we get into 5S. While preparing for a Kaizen, we always create a continuous improvement scope sheet. Defining the scope of your project is critical to your success. Scope sheets allow the team to maintain their focus, guide their activities, and track their progress. Here you will see an example of a scope sheet that was put together for a process mapping Kaizen at Robinson Nursery. The scope of this event was to find the least waste way to process orders from entry to fulfillment. A scope sheet includes the event description, location, and time. The preliminary objective section is basically a pre-event checklist. It keeps preparation for your Kaizen on track. We make a note of the team members involved, a general outline of the process that we are focused on improving, and a list of problems and situations that we would like to address. One of the most important elements of a scope sheet is creating stretch goals. Small goals give you small results. Don't be afraid to really stretch beyond what you would like to have happen. Our stretch goals for this particular event were to cut the non-value added steps in half and completely eliminate all defects. Let me explain what process mapping is, and then I will show you the outcome of our event. Process mapping creates a visual representation of a process. In order to do this, input and participation are required from every individual that takes part in the process. Every step taken by every team member needs to be listed. This activity takes a week of preparation and 2 days for the event. The first day is used mapping the current state. The second day is used for refining it into the future state. It is not uncommon for a process map to be over 20 feet long with 300 plus steps. We use butcher paper and sticky notes to help visualize the process. All the sticky notes represent a part in the process, and each of them are labeled as a non-value added step or a value added step. So here we're looking a little deeper into our event, which again was finding the least waste way to process orders from entry to fulfillment. Once the current state is mapped, it is easy to see the depth of a process and how many things we were doing that did not add value. We found multiple opportunities to reduce steps. We realized we were batch processing product and information, wasting time tracking down people and equipment. We were over-communicating through email, phone, and in person. The same information was being communicated 5 to 10 times throughout the different divisions in the company. This created multiple opportunities for error. Just imagine the telephone game we all played as kids. These were just a few examples. At this point, every team member could see ways to refine and improve. The crew's homework after the first day was to come up with 3 solutions to fix the problems observed. With participation from all the stakeholders, you are empowering your team members. You are providing them the opportunity to be heard, and you finally have the information required to really move forward with good change. At the beginning of day 2, we compiled a list of problems and opportunities for improvement. We then used the homework and assigned countermeasures to each of the issues. We spent the day eliminating non-value steps, streamlining the process, and mapping the future state. To ensure the success, of our future state, team members were assigned the responsibility to complete each countermeasure with a projected date of completion. With multiple perspectives and complete team engagement, we could easily refine our process. The solutions or countermeasures that our team came up with to improve our handling of orders included documenting standard work, every step of the way from order entry to fulfillment. A paperless process was initiated and greatly reduced multiple forms of waste. We have now implemented shipping screens that show our shipping progress in real time. And do you remember those stretch goals we made to cut the non-value added steps in half? The non-value added steps were reduced from 262 to 126. It was a huge victory for our order fulfillment process. Thus far, we have talked about specific methods where you can apply lean within your company. I mentioned earlier that we are in year 7 of applying lean principles at Robinson Nursery. The transition takes time, but it is well worth it. It was only last January, 2018, that the whole of Robinson Nursery embarked on an incredible journey that catapulted our entire team into what was once only a vision. A week-long company-wide training introduced a foundational element of lean management into every corner of our business. The implementation of 5S educated, empowered, and revitalized Robinson Nursery as a whole. 5S is a system that creates and sustains a culture of a clean, safe, and efficient workplace. I realize that sounds pretty basic, but our results were incredible, and I cannot encourage you enough to take the time to apply 5S. On day 1, every supervisor and manager in the company was trained on each of the 5 S's. I will outline these for you in a moment. Sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Everyone was required to participate. Employees that normally work together were divided up into teams, and these teams were comprised of 6 to 8 people that normally do not have the opportunity to work together, allowing individuals to build relationships throughout the company. This team-building twist was very well received, and we have maintained a lasting camaraderie ever since the event. The next 2 days, teams were tasked with the daunting responsibility to apply each of the 5 S's to the location they were assigned. Here is how to 5S. First, sort. Take everything out of the area, everything. Separate the garbage, recycling, and what does not belong there. You can easily recognize what belongs in a specific area by determining its value or importance to that area. Ask, what is it for? How often is it used? If it is not important, remove it. In this program, unneeded or rarely used items receive a red tag. Red tags are an ongoing visual control that communicates to everyone that the item is out of place and needs to be returned to its proper location. For example, a tool borrowed from the shop would be tagged. All red tagged items are returned to their proper location at the end of each day. Once unneeded items have been removed, remaining items are set in order. Items should be organized in such a way that they can be used and stored easily. When organizing and identifying storage, it is important to consider point of use. Point of use allows the most frequently used items to be kept closest to the worker. Items used together are stored together in the sequence in which they are used. At this stage, visual controls such as signs and labels are created making it possible for anyone to locate and return tools and machinery to their assigned storage place. Shine. Clean and carefully inspect everything. Look for damage, wear and tear, leaks, etc. Create a plan to prevent unnecessary deterioration and buildup of dirt, such as having clean tools at the point of use, or a visual aid to show the expectation of what the item should look like. Set a standard for cleanliness to be achieved each day. The first three S's, sort, set in order, and shine, are activities to get you to where you want to be. The fourth S, standardize, is when you create a plan to help maintain and improve all that you have done. The use of visual controls and standardized work will keep the system in place. The majority of people are visual learners. By creating a visual workplace, you are making it easy for people to walk into a workstation and have an immediate understanding of the situation. They can see how it is done, when it is done, and if something is out of place. All this reduces miscommunication and breaks down language and literacy barriers. Examples of this are walkway markers, safety alerts, diagrams, and labels. Be sure your visual controls are simple and hard to miss. Create a schedule with a checklist that includes what needs to be done to maintain the standard, who does it, and when it should be done. Everyone will share in the responsibility of maintaining the standard. The schedule will be posted where everyone can see it, ensuring accountability and opportunity for teamwork. And finally, in order to sustain the system that has been created, the standard must become the habit of company culture. Regular 5S evaluations prevent the buildup of clutter and discord. During the evaluation, all areas are scored on each of the 5 S's. These scores clearly communicate the expectation as well as motivate individuals to continually keep their area sorted, orderly, and clean. When creating a sustainable habit, it is imperative to celebrate the success of your team. The picture you see in the top corner is a photo of our 2018 Lean Team champions. And here they're receiving the Lean Team Champion belt. There are 2 criteria that need to be met to earn this honor. You must show excellence in process improvement throughout the year, and you have sustained an outstanding score on your 5S evaluations. We have found this to be incredibly enjoyable and effective, as teams have already begun to strategize ways to win in 2019. There you have the 5 S's, sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. At the end of our company-wide training week, each of the groups made presentations on what they had accomplished. Numerous suggestions were made for ways areas could be improved upon further. Feedback from every team was overwhelmingly positive. People were invigorated, grateful, and excited. With decades of clutter out of the way, efficiency and productivity skyrocketed. However, the most incredible transformation has been the wonderfully enhanced company morale, allowing people the opportunity to build relationships, accomplish goals, ask why, and have their thoughts be heard. It was a momentous experience for us all. Again, I encourage you all to take the time to apply 5S. I know it sounds crazy to shut down production for a week, but I promise you, you will experience higher quality results, an increase in productivity, and a notable shift in company morale. It is important to not only standardize your 5S activities, but to also create standard work for every process within your organization. Standard work creates a blueprint for every process within your organization. The blueprint should resemble that of a Lego building instruction booklet. It should be at the point of use so that anyone can walk up and do a process proficiently. With standard work, the criteria is clear and concise, expedites training, and sustains improvements. Our team at Robinson Nursery had a challenging shipping season in 2018. We all came together and decided we would work with one another to create standard work with a new system that would make all our jobs easier and more enjoyable. We recognized our biggest issue was the extended lead times it would take to have an order ready to ship. The problem with trucking availability really exposed this weakness. The old process was full of waste. It was easy to identify the waste when observing Tim Wood, but it was hard to comprehend a solution to all the problems. At first, we thought our solution would be to create a large supermarket. This can be helpful in many organizations, but it didn't seem to be the right solution here. Let's walk through the waste and then talk about the solution that our team came up with. It's very common in the nursery industry to create batches of work. Divisions are set up, and there can be limited teamwork between divisions. In Lean, we call the walls that build up between divisions silos. These silos work within themselves and create batches of work that need to wait until the next silo is freed up to start work on their next batch. These batches create every form of waste. We know from our Lean trainings that one-piece flow is the fastest way to transform our products or services. Our shipping process was very much a batch process and had every form of waste in it multiple times. Our teams went through a 3-day Kaizen that included a one-piece flow training. A simple definition of one-piece flow is that an item will move through a process one at a time. After the morning of training on one-piece flow, the vision for change was almost immediately seen by all team members. Our consultants are very good at modeling one-piece flow in their training program, and it made this vision possible. I remember one team member saying, "Why don't we just pull trees like the game we just played?" Aha, and it began. We went out and spent the next 2.5 days transforming our process. We kicked the batches out and welcomed in one-piece flow. This has been called by team members in our organization a game changer. We have developed a new way of netting the trees. The old method was to acquire all the plants onto the trailers and deliver them to a central location to be processed and palletized. We now move the netting station throughout the nursery and process them from start to finish in the bed. We move them one by one through the tagging, netting, and palletizing process. This eliminated the bulk of the batching. Once a full pallet is finished, it is loaded on a trailer and transported to the loading dock. The progress of the order pull is then tracked in real time on our shipping screens that are located in different divisions throughout the company, as well as in the owner's offices. The visual cues are represented by a change between 3 colors: red, order started; yellow, order in process; and green, order complete. Our results from this event were huge. We reduced the lead time to pull an order by 50%, we decreased our shortages, and increased our quality, and we definitely increased our efficiency. This improvement alone will save us 3,000 hours in 2019. For Lean to work in an organization, the CEO must be in full support of the transportation. Lean takes time, hard work, and an extreme amount of perseverance, lots of failures, and humility. You will never become Lean. but you will always strive to be lean. For those in lean leadership positions, it is a balance of providing information and support. What this means is you don't want to give anyone a bucket of fish, but rather encourage them to fish and give them the tools to be really good at it. When I first tried to deploy lean several years ago, I thought I was amazing at process improvement. I could walk into any workplace and see the waste. I had been trained by experts and had great success in multiple Kaizens working with companies outside of Robinson Nursery. I brought my new skills back and would prepare a Kaizen internally. I remember going in and showing all of our team members all the different forms of waste that I observed, and I gave them great ideas to fix the problems. After a solid year of this, I realized I was walking into a functional team and destroying it with my extreme micromanaging skills. This is counterproductive and exactly what lean is not. I now realize it is about equipping every team member with the skills to find best practices collectively. When you first see a team achieve this on their own, it is an amazing experience and the start to exponential growth. In order to have employee buy-in to lean principles, the ideas must come from general workforce while being fostered by every level of leadership. Without this balance achieved, it is easy to slide back into performing tasks the old way. Standardization of processes that have been documented in a manner that is easy to replicate is imperative. Holding people accountable to the standard work is one of the keys to sustainability. It is human nature to gravitate back to the way things were. The most important role of a leader after a successful Kaizen is to ensure this does not happen. Be there the first days following a Kaizen and maintain the good change. The best aspect of implementing lean in our company is not the productivity gains or the money saved. It is the inspiring change in culture. It's like a breath of fresh air. The lean mindset is established, and employee buy-in is strengthened daily by consistently applying these principles. People feel empowered by the change they have influenced and witnessed. Team members come to work with a clear idea of the expectation, and innovation has become second nature. So now the question is not, what is lean, but why not lean? All right, any questions?
Yeah, we have several questions that have come in. Chris, did you want to mention some of these resources here on your slide?
Yeah, these were just some resources that kind of helped me get started. The books by Art Byrne are really good. They give an easy way to understand lean through stories that he tells in manufacturing. Mm-hmm. And then the other book that I really like is this Everybody Matters, The Extraordinary Power of Caring for Your People Like Family. And it's by Bob Chapman, who's the CEO of Barry Way Miller. And he's just had an incredible transformation of his business, so I highly recommend that. And then the consulting firm that we work with is the Peters Company. They've kind of been our mentors in this transformation. I would highly recommend checking out their website and looking into using them.
Okay. Excuse me. The first question that came in wants to know if you can quantify the positive effects of your lean process.
As far as in dollars gained or cultural improvement, well, what type of quantify? Because we can definitely quantify it financially. Over the years...
That's probably, I have a feeling that's what he meant, yeah.
Yeah, so like this last event we just did where we're probably going to save 3,000 hours is probably going to save us $60,000. And we probably had, I don't know, 3 events that were that substantial throughout the year.
Wow.
In 7 years, we probably saved over $500,000 through these initiatives. And really, most of the things are hard to quantify because it's really about the cultural change of people coming in and trying to be better at their jobs every day. It's pretty cool.
Hmm. Can you, excuse me, sorry, it's cedar fever here. I've got a little frog in my throat all of a sudden. I'm sorry. Can you recommend any additional resources to learn about One Piece flow?
If you get online and you just type in One Piece Flow, there's videos and diagrams. If you watch a NASCAR race and the teamwork in the pit, I mean, that's really what we're trying to achieve. And you look over 50 years of the progress of that and where they were and where they've come. That's probably one of the better One Piece Flow actions.
Hmm. Okay. And someone else would like for you to elaborate a little bit on the changes required to move from batched processes to One Piece flow.
Um, really, like I just said, I would watch what One Piece Flow looks like, and then I would just go out into your organization, and depending on what you do, I just do a little trial in an area. And rather than taking all of your product from one location and moving all of it to another, and then taking that and moving all of that to another, I would try just doing each piece of the process fluidly and see what happens. But go to YouTube and see what it looks like, and then see how you can apply that to different areas in your business.
Hmm. Okay. And someone is asking if there are any good learning resources in terms of lean that are out there in Spanish.
I'm sure there's tons. We've got a team here that translates everything that we have into Spanish, and then
Hmm.
through the consulting firm we work with, they give classes in Spanish as well. So my
Okay.
exposure to that has been through them. But this is a worldwide kind of deal that's going on, so you can find information in every language.
Okay. So, how does lean deal with personality issues within teams and between divisions?
That's an interesting question because with lean, you kind of treat every individual as the person that they are, and you empower them to use their skills to come together as a team. And when you create these teams, you can really see the different skills that people bring to the table. And when we do these events, there's not leaders and followers. Everybody's on the same plane. So there's a comfortable feel to it so that everyone can come forth as the person they are and really help with the skills that they have.
Okay. And someone else asks, how important is it to listen to your crew members when moving forward in changing a process versus telling them suggestions?
So the key is to only listen to your workers. As a production leader in a nursery, it's really hard to walk into an area and not tell people how to do things because I think that's just how production people are geared. But if you start to ask a lot of questions, why are you doing this? What's the reason that we do this? Ask why 5 different times, and you'll be surprised at what will come out of the employee. The change that is sustained is not something that comes from you. It's something that comes from your workforce.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I have somebody asked. I believe the answer is on this slide that you have up right now. They asked if you used an outside company to get you started, and were the costs for this process significant?
In terms of what we achieved, if you work with the Peters Company, they have, it feels like they're working with you. And from my opinion, they're very reasonable with what you get out of them. If you have interest, I would shoot them an email or give them a call. And I think you'll be surprised at what you can accomplish for the money that you put in.
Mm-hmm. And for the person who asked about Spanish resources, somebody has posted, there is a book by Miguel Fernandez Gomez. It's called Lean Manufacturing in Spanish, en Español. It's a short book, but has many of the same topics as Mr. Robinson's presentation, he said. So there you go. Jean, I'm sorry, Jeannie, if I'm getting your name wrong, but that's Eric's suggestion for some Spanish-speaking resources. So non-value added steps. It may sound obvious, but how do you determine what's non-value added?
So if it doesn't meet the 3 criteria that we talked about, it needs to be done right the first time. The customer needs to be willing to pay for it. And it needs to transform the product or the service. In most lean companies, most of what they do is still not, everything isn't value added. Like in Toyota, even with them who, they kind of who we all look to for this, they've only achieved 50% of their activities being value added. So it's not what we traditionally think of adding value, because we all add value to what we do in our workplace. But this is just talking about the lean definition. So when we do these process maps that I talked about, in the 262 steps we had labeled, there were probably, through the lean definition, only 3 stickies that had value added. In the nursery business, usually it's just the growing of the plant, or doing something extra that enhances the plant that your customer is willing to pay for. So when you go through these exercises, you'll be really surprised, based off of the lean definition, of how much non-value added steps you're actually doing.
Mm-hmm. How did the team engagement through the lean process change the dynamic of all the crews and how they work together and work with you guys?
When I first came into the company, we've got 3 divisions in our company, and there was little teamwork between them, even though we all relied on each other. So over time, we've broken this down, and in our company now, you don't feel that. You don't feel that propagation is off in their own world, and our container farm is off in their own world, and the field production we have is off in their own world. We're always constantly collaborating, because we're all a customer of each other. So it's created an insane amount of teamwork, something that, when I first started here, I didn't think was going to be possible, but I don't even worry about that anymore.
Mm-hmm. So is lean for all sizes of nurseries? This person, suggested that you have a much larger operation, but is this something that a small to mid-sized nursery could implement as well?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's something as simple as doing the dishes at home. Doing one piece blow or putting the dishes away. Obviously, in a smaller company, you're not going to be able to devote the time at some of the projects that we've done, because you're required to be there all the time. But you can do just little kaizens throughout the day, or focus on spending your time on continuous improvement. And then as you get better at those things, you might create more time that you can spend some time doing the things that I spoke about.
Mm-hmm. Can you apply lean a department at a time? I think this person's wondering if they can just focus on one part of their organization at a time, or does it have to be, A to Z?
So, that's a good thing to bring up, because the consulting firm I work with, when we started, they said create a lighthouse, create a beacon in your company. Start in one area, um, and show everybody, that this is going to make people's jobs easier. It's going to increase the quality of your products, and then your employees are going to be more empowered or fulfilled. So I think that's a really good way to start.
Hmm. Is there do you have any advice on which department, how to decide which department to start with, or
Yeah, so we
which
track
you're going to get the
our
most bang for your buck?
we track our hours really closely here. So I'll look at my monthly report and I'll see the area that we're using the most hours on, and I would attack that because you want to attack the low hanging fruit first. Or maybe you have a new process that you're not as familiar with and your team hasn't been doing for 30 years. That's also a good one to go after as well.
Hmm. All right, we have a comment and a question. It says the lean process seems to work in a linear motion along a manufacturing line, but in a nursery, you're dealing with a lot of unmanageable factors such as weather, daylight, etc. How do you account for that?
I really don't think a farm is that much different than a manufacturing facility. You have those issues that you're working with. Obviously in our field, the plants don't move, but you can move with the plants. We're doing a lot of things in our company now where it's more like manufacturing with all the planting lines and moving platforms in the field and things of that nature. So I think you just need to think outside the box and really engage the people that are working with you and train them on some of these principles. And I think you'll be surprised at how much there is to gain from this. A lot of times we see that nurseries can gain more with lean than manufacturing companies because manufacturing companies have been doing this for a really long time.
Hmm. Okay. Someone wants to know, what did you do with the red tagged items?
We just take them back to where they belong. So when the item is red tagged, then we know it doesn't belong in the area that it was in, and it's taken back to the area that it belongs to, and then it no
Oh, okay.
longer has a red tag.
Oh, okay. So what's the most surprising thing you've learned during this process?
Um, I'm just surprised at, when you go out and you're intentional on improvement. I was surprised how grateful the employees were that you're listening to them. And then once the team members bring forth an item of change, they're just really excited that we're listening and caring. I was surprised at the impact that it had on our teamwork.
Mhm. So when you were showing the process maps, that spelled out every process that you go through to achieve, whatever it is you're looking at. So how did, once you put that process map up, how, when did you realize that, all the extra steps, or how do you think all those extra steps happened? Is it just because people got in a routine of doing things, or was it a lack of training, or just because we always did it that way, or?
Well, I think it's attributed to the silos that I talked about. We all kind of operate in our own world. So I do things that I think need to be done because I think they're helpful to the next person in the process or the person previous in the process. But I'm not always communicating constantly with, are you printing out that load sheet too? I'm printing it out and then I'm giving it to this other team member. A lot of times I just don't understand the depth of a process because I'm in my own silo. But when
Mhm.
you all come forward and say, yeah, I'm doing that, it's like, wait, I thought I was doing that. And then the next person down the line is like, yeah, I'm doing that too. I think it's just human nature to try and protect your space by making sure that you're successful.
Mhm. So does that what you the comment you just made, does that hinder the implementing lean processes? Because people do want to protect that job that they're doing, or they're afraid that they won't be needed,
Yeah,
or
that's one of the biggest hurdles you'll first cross. And when you make this transformation, you'll find that there's people that are geared towards this and that are going to really flourish and make this go far in your company. And there's certain people that just aren't going to come with you.
Mhm.
So it's really important that you explain the benefits of people to people. They get to experience the benefits. If you have someone that really is digging their feet into the ground, go to their area and show them how you can improve it. Make their life easier through these concepts, and then they'll be your biggest beacon for this whole lean thing to go through. Um, so there's a lot of that in the beginning, and you just gotta power through it.
How do you handle reducing the number of times you handle a plant? This attendee says, for example, we constantly move plants, seasonally upsizing, consolidating, etc. So how do you handle reducing the number of times that you're touching that plant?
In our nursery, we have to do a lot of that too. There's things based off of weather. We got to bring plants together and winter protect them and things like that. There's some things that we just have to do. Um, but if you look at the things that you don't have to do, and then you start to attack those first, it might start to give you ideas on how you can minimize the moving that you absolutely have to do. That's still one of our biggest wastes. In the field, it's easier because the plants are stuck in the ground, but in containers, if it can be moved, it will be moved.
Okay. And what time of the year did you do that week-long shutdown?
It was January 14th to the 19th in 2018. Um, and I thought it was the perfect week because we had just finished grading and we weren't shipping yet, but we still had several trucks go out that week. So that is the only period of time in our nursery that we could have accomplished something like that.